Hey guys, this is Tauna, and today we're going to be talking about some super budget staples that we found from the Spider-Man set. Obviously, a lot of people kind of ignored the Spider-Man set, and rightfully so. There was a lot of issues with it, but there are some cards in it that were quite strong in my opinion, if not stronger than staples that people are running. And most of them are quite cheap at the moment because, it's Spider-Man, as well as they are at the common, or, even if they're rare, they're still relatively cheap, which is great. So let me know your thoughts at the end of this. But if you are looking to build some budget decks, if you are, struggling with the deck building process, you can head on over to our Ko-fi and support us there. We've got a special code running until the November the 4th at the moment, where you can get custom deck lists, deck review videos, etc. for 15% off. This is all to support me, who, we're going through a few financial issues at the moment, so this would be a huge help. Thank you. So let's start off with Romantic Rendezvous. Now, you're probably thinking, but we've already got this card. And sure, we already have a lot of cards very similar. Paying 2, discarding card to draw 2 cards is like a red staple that you'll find in nearly every set. But this one is a little bit different because the discard is not attached to it as an additional cost. So that means stuff like Tormenting Voice or Thriller Possibility, if you do happen to get countered when you have them because, someone decides to counter them or whatever, then that discard you have to do anyway as a part of the cost for it. Romantic Rendezvous is different to that. It is discard a card, then draw 2 cards. Now, the more powerful thing about this is because it is not a cost for it. If you have no cards in your hand, you can play this. You don't need to discard a card. There is nothing for you to discard. Then you'll draw 2 cards. It is in a red deck that is going to be playing through your hand. It is just draw 2 cards. That makes it so strong in my opinion. It is a really great card, and it is a common. Again, it is great. Next up, we've got Amazing Acrobatics. So this one here is very similar to like the Urza's rebuff from the past, right? From Brotherhood. Brothers War. It is counter target spell or tap 1 to 2 creatures. However, the difference here with Amazing Acrobatics is you can do both. You can counter a spell and tap 2 target creatures. And that is only for 1 extra mana compared to a normal counter spell. In my opinion, that is really great. It is 8 cents at the moment. It is a great counter spell to add into your decks. It's just wonderful. Next up, we've got Chameleon, Master of Disguise. He is costing 30 cents currently. So the amazing thing about Chameleon is that he keeps his name. He will come in as a copy of something, but he is going to keep his own name. Therefore, legendary rule doesn't matter because he's going to keep his own name. Therefore, you can copy something on the board. This is going to potentially be just going straight into my Miram deck. Compare it to something like a Spark Double or Sakashima of the Thousand Faces that do very similar things, right? Like they do basically the same thing. Ignore the legendary rule and stuff, etc. But this one here, you can cast it for cheaper for a start if you discard it. And it also has base power and toughness 2/3. So if it happens to get out and there's nothing to copy, you've still got that creature. Just being able to cast it for cheaper in a discard deck is great in my opinion. All right, next up we got Hide on the Ceiling. This is a great one because it is a 2-for-1, right? You can either use it kind of offensively, where you exile a whole bunch of creatures, and then bring them back in at the beginning of the next end step, or so that way you get your ETBs again. Or you could use it defensively. Someone targets something, boom, you're going to flicker that thing. They target your whole board, boom, you're going to flicker out all of your creatures and artifacts if you've got enough mana to it. Then they come back at the next end step. In my opinion, this is a really great way to protect your board if you don't happen to have a counter spell up for whatever reason, or protect your board plus get those additional kind of ETBs there. It's great. I love it. All right, we've got Spider Sense. Now, we've got a few counter spells. Blue had some really great cards here. So this one here is a great counter spell because it is counter target instant, sorcery, or triggered ability. You can use that for 1 and a blue, or for a start, counter triggered ability is really great. Or you can just cast it for a single blue. All you need to do is return a tapped creature to your hand. There are a bunch of different uses for that. So you can use this to, someone's targeting one of your creatures. You can use it to counter that spell, and then return something back to your hand to therefore be able to, you know, play it again. Or, you know, if you've got some leaves the battlefield triggers and stuff, you know, there's a bunch of different ways you can utilize the fact that you're bouncing something back to your hand and then being able to cast it again. And you can use this, you know, to stop someone's triggered ability if they've got, like, you know, when like a Pant Larza triggered ability or something like that. It's a great one, right? And even if you don't happen to have a creature to return to your hand, it's still 1 and a blue to be able to do it. In my opinion, I think that's up there as a very, very strong counter spell, and currently it's only $1. All right, we've got Unstable Experiment. This is 4 cents. This is 4 cents. What you're going to do is you're going to draw a card, then you're going to draw another card, and then discard a card, and if that is a non-land, you're putting a +1 onto something. So it's draw 2, discard 1, put a +1 counter onto something potentially. To me, that's pretty strong for 1 and a blue. Depending on what your deck is, if you have a discard-based deck, or if you've got, like, you know, ways to be able to utilize the graveyard or something like that, that's great. If you've got creatures that you want to get stronger, that's great. If you've got, you know, triggers off of +1 counters, that's great. Like, there is just a bunch of different uses for this. I do love how he says about, you know, turning green there, because the fact that he puts the +1 counters on it just reminds me of, like, you know, a Simic deck and stuff. Yeah, and this is 4 cents at the moment. All right, we've got Parker Luck. So at the moment, Keen Duelist is a great card, right? Keen Duelist is an amazing card. It is sitting there at, like, you know, a few dollars at the moment. Parker Luck sitting there at 24 cents. It costs 1 more mana. However, the great thing about Parker Luck is you can use it, like, it's at the end step, which isn't great, but you can use this and choose 2 opponents, right? They both get to put a card into their hand, not draw a card, put a card into their hand, but they'll also both take damage. Or you can use it on yourself to get a card into your hand at, you know, the beginning of the end step, and then, you know, you can discard that card if your hand's full, or, you know, there's just drawing a card at the end step isn't necessarily bad. Like the Monarch already does that. 24 cents to get, like, a reliable draw at the end step is pretty good. Depending on what your deck is as well, if you've got a huge amount of high mana cards and you know that an opponent has, you know, relatively low mana stuff, you can target them. You're going to potentially take, you know, 1-2 damage or something like that. Landfall deck, the opponent's landfall deck, boom, they're just going to get a land, you take no damage, and then they could lose however many, you know, big mana cards you've got in your deck. We got Strength of Will. This one's, I love this card. So, target creature you control gets indestructible, and whenever it is dealt damage, put that many +1/+1 counters onto it. So if you've got a creature and someone has cast, like, you know, a big board wipe, right? Like a Blacksmith's Act, the damage-based board wipes. You cast this. Now your creature is going to get 13 +1/+1 counters onto it. And it's still indestructible. So if they try and destroy it afterwards, they got to wait till, you know, the next turn for it. But still, it's a great way to be like, hey, fuck you. Why did you try and destroy my creature? Just get a whole bunch of damage. Or you could use it as a combat trick, right? You attack in with a little 1/1 creature. They take damage, and then you're going to play this before they take damage. They get, you know, potentially huge, right? Or a chump blocker, or, you know, there's just a bunch of different uses for this. It's 76 cents in any kind of, you know, deck that's like a Voltron-esque deck. I think it's really great. If it's in any deck that, you know, is going to be utilizing combat and is in green, right? Like every single green deck, I think it's great for. Or a lot of green decks. Next up, we've got Superior Spider-Man. So, Superior Spider-Man is similar to, like, the Body Double and Activated Sleeper. However, it does exile the card from the graveyard. But it can be from any graveyard, just like them. So you get to bring in Superior Spider-Man as a 4/4. He's going to exile something from an opponent's graveyard. I've used it to exile a Shieldred from someone's graveyard, and oh boy, they were not happy because, 1, they couldn't recur their Shieldred, and 2, I then had a Shieldred. You know, there's just a bunch of uses for it to just do what you like with it. It's actually making room, like, within standard and stuff like that. It's a card that you definitely should pick up now, because it's potentially going to be going up if, you know, say for example, Vivi gets banned, then, you know, Dimir, Esper decks may go up, so it's definitely worthwhile keeping an eye on. All right, we've got Urban Retreat. This one I really like because it is a Bant land, right? Like it's going to tap for green, white, blue. It comes in tapped. But the good thing that I like about this is that you can essentially kind of ramp it, right? You can pay to return a tapped creature to your hand and then put this card onto the battlefield. That does not count as your land drop for turn. It's not your land drop. It's just an additional land that you're putting out, just cheating out onto the battlefield. So in like, a deck that's going to have anything like, Bant, like a 5-color deck, I think it's great for, because now you've just got an additional kind of triome that you can cheat out for cheaper. A tapped creatures are tapped all the time for various different reasons, so this is a great way to have that. And then there's a bunch of ways to make it so it comes in untapped as well, right? Like Spelunking or the new Horizon Explorer, that kind of stuff, which is just going to work great too. All right, so that's it for today, guys. I'd love to hear from you guys as to what your thoughts are. If there's any of them that you're looking to pick up, any of them you think I've missed, let me know. I hope you guys had a wonderful day, and goodbye.